Hey everyone, in this video I'll be giving you the ultimate guide to cash in Borderlands 4. I'll be going over all the best builds, all the skill trees, best class mods, weapons, and everything to get the most out of cash, as he is a very interesting kid. Now across the board, all three of his skill trees are very powerful, and I'll be breaking down exactly how to get the most out of each of them. And the funny thing is, he can do something that each of the Vault Hunters does, but he does it better. If you want infinite ammo, the War Wagon here works with any of his skill trees, and the best part about this is when it's used with heavy ordnance, you get infinite heavy ordnance, which is perfect for the new Heimdall weapon, which is very powerful. The green skill tree here can give us basically an infinite ability to go into our Windfall, which is where we get all of our benefits from, and I'll go into that in a moment. And also in the blue skill tree, we can get some insane scaling on our damage and our skill damage as well. And he can be like infinite crit Harlow here by using Sweet in the Pot to add action skill onto his gun damage and then take Hot Streak to make infinite critical hits. Pretty silly. And between the three skill trees, the red one is mostly going to be focused on damage, and with the crossfire skill here, you can actually get it to do respectable damage, much higher than anything Amon's capable of. The green skill tree here is a bit more defensive with things like Turn the Faith, giving you overshield steal, similar to Vex's Team Witch class mod, and it also gets some really fun enhancements here that lets you jinx targets, making them take more damage and deal less damage to your team. This will also work alongside Gut Punch from Amon. So the red's damage, the green is survivability, and the blue is fun. It's the sleight of hand here. I actually really enjoy this one, and the cards will do insane damage when we go into Windfall. Now, for a brief overview of what Windfall does. So this is a kill skill. Every time we take out an enemy, we get a stack of fortune. So normally we can get up to 10 stacks of fortune. There are skills that lets us go up to 20 stacks here with no limit, but this will reduce the Windfall chance. Still very nice, however, because there's a lot of things that will benefit the more stacks of fortune that we do have, but they will each give us a 3% chance to enter our Windfall here. Once you get 10 stacks of the fortune, you have a 30% chance to be able to go into your Windfall. So that's pretty nice. Now, if you're using this here, the no limit, you have a lesser chance of going into Windfall, but you get more benefits from it. Now, each of these is also, it's going to last for 12 seconds. When you're in your Windfall, you get a 15% gun damage and 15% skill damage. There's a lot of skills that are fortune skills that will scale up. And whenever we have any of these skills here that are based on our fortune stacks, when we're in Windfall, it treats us as though we're at our maximum stacks. So yeah, you can imagine the damage gets pretty insane with this. Now to enter Windfall, you got to automatically reload your gun. So this cannot be a manual reload, kind of similar to using the new Shalashaska weapon. You have to shoot it till the ammunition's gone and then automatically will reload to enter Windfall. Or if you activate your action skill. Now this is a little bit more of a gamble because going into your action skill can sometimes, in the case of Crossfire, make the damage go insane or even sleight of hand. But if you don't go into it, you almost feel like you wasted your action skill. And that's where the green skill tree can't stop winning comes into effect, because cash gains a chance to critically hit with guns and action skills. That's great, but it's also those critical hits that now will give us a chance to enter Windfall. So you can get many chances to enter Windfall, and with this, you do often. And you can see your Windfall stacks beside your health bar there. You see one shot of this gun and I'm already in my Windfall. So that is great because we get a huge boost for our damage, and then we can go ahead with using all of our other abilities there. There are some things that are going to be a lot higher in damage if we're in our Windfall. So like, for example, the red skill tree, the damage from it is insane when we're in our Windfall. So you might want to wait for that. Same thing with the blue skill tree. Green, it doesn't really matter. You're just tossing out the dice and it's a little bit less hands-on. But yeah, that shows how beneficial it is to have the green skill tree in this. So if you're doing like a blue skill tree, you can actually you can mix and match these very well, because adding in the green skill tree lets you go into Windfall easily. Adding in the red skill tree adds the infinite ammo, and then the blue skill tree itself has a lot of fun things. But I'm going to first start off with the different class mods here, because he's got 8 of them, and I did a video breaking down all the new ones if you want to see the other ones for the other Vault Hunters. In a nutshell, the best one is the Gamer here. This will likely get nerfed because it seems like it's working like how pre-nerf Vex bleed worked, but basically you critically hit an enemy, you bleed them, and when you take out an enemy with a critical hit, you have a 7% chance to get a Chaos Totem, which will shoot at enemies. This is also going to be a 14% chance if Windfall is active. This will also increase your fire rate, and the best part is it has incredible skill rolls, giving you accursed bones, so any of the skill trees you're using, you can give jinxed onto the enemy, which is insane. And even crazier, it gives you lifesteal on top of that, so even a single point of accursed bones is insane because it's 12% lifesteal against these, and you also are going to do more damage and take less damage from them. This can also give points into Trick Shot, which will give you extra kinetic damage, which does trigger War Wagon, which is really nice to see. And then there's also rolls into Tender Hearts, which increase your critical hit damage furthermore when we're in our action skill, or when we're in Windfall. So it can be, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Such good rolls, but also the effects. This is like one of the best class mods we've ever gotten. It'll likely get nerfed. And you can even get to roll with 5 points into a Curse Bones, which will give you an insane amount of life steal. Another class mod that is crazy good, and this works very well with the blue skill tree. Cash's action skill cooldown rate is reduced to 0, but all the boosts to our cooldown rate will get converted into action skill damage. So our action skill goes through the roof with this. And whenever we gain a stack of fortune, we restore 10% of our action skill cooldown and gain 20% fire rate boost and 25% reload speed boost for those 8 seconds. So yeah, you basically are going to get your fortune stacks back to get your action skill back. And what's silly about this is there's some abilities like Go for Broke, which can give you a +5 fortune stacks, which will give you basically your action skill back. The whale can also give rolls into Turn of Fate, giving you that overshield steal, which again is super incredible. It gives you Unshaken, which will increase damage from all sources for every fortune stack we end up losing. So great whenever we end up going through them. And Payout, which will increase your fortune skills bonuses. So the whale class mod, another very powerful one. One that I really like, and I'm enjoying the Crossfire. It's actually pretty powerful when we go into Ultimate Vault Hunter 6, believe it or not. But it basically makes it so that we do a spinning around fire attack, and if Windfall's active, it's an infinite critical hit. This will also give us points into Tender Hearts again, giving you even more critical hit damage. But what's most crazy of all is it gives you points into the capstone ability here, Bloodstained Moon. Whenever we critically hit an enemy, we get increased elemental damage effect, and whenever we critically hit an enemy and kill them, we get to throw fire mortars at them, doing a bunch of extra damage. So this is actually a pretty solid class mod across the board for any of them, but mostly for the Crossfire, obviously, just because the skill rolls are very nice. This also boosts our critical hit damage by 40% at level 60. So yeah, if you want to go for some crazy crits, this is the way to do it. There's also the Wind Rider, which I don't love, but whenever you kill an enemy with a critical hit, you double your fortune stacks, and if you end up not taking them out with a critical hit, you get half the fortune stacks, and whenever you gain fortune, you get hit points, and whenever you lose them, you get overshield. This is an interesting one. It also boosts up your damage dealt, but I found it very hard to use when there's so many better class mods out there. We also got the Hooligan. This one's from Bloom Reaper, and I think this is probably the best one for ordnance style builds, and I gotta say, Cash has some of the craziest ordnance builds in this game. So whenever Cash kills an enemy, he gains a stack of Hooligan. Whenever he deals grenade damage, consume all of those stacks and get 40% bonus fire damage per stack. 25 stacks, that's 1,000% bonus fire damage. And if Windfall is active, you only consume half of those stacks, so you can continually keep burning away. This also gives you increase your ordnance damage. I got one that gives me extra damage dealt. It also gives points into Truck Full of Nitro, which adds more bonus damage onto your ordnance, which is actually kind of insane. And it also gives points into the Before You Know You're Dead. Before She Knows You're Dead, Cash gains increased movement speed for the bone totems and increased skill damage based on how fast you're moving, which is not really like amazing unless you want to go with the green skill tree, but ordnance builds work very well with the red skill tree. There's also the Rounder class mod. Now, this one I found to be a little bit more challenging unless you have a specific setup to use. It's going to give you less charges of your sleight of hand throwing the cards, and whenever we kill an enemy with a card, we gain 2 charges and reset our action skill duration. This will also boost up your action skill damage by 70% at level 60. So this can be really nice, but whenever you're using this, you do have to have certain setups, most notably the Furious Fingers. You want to have this one because whenever we activate Windfall, we gain sleight of hand charges equal to the number of fortune stacks we had. So if you throw on No Limit for the 20 stacks, you get 23 cards. It's so much better. You don't lose a couple from the class mod, but it does boost it up quite a bit. This one's interesting too because you can get rolls into some very deep ones like Hot Streak, which will give you bonus critical hit damage. And again, if you use Sweeten the Pot, you get those infinite crits because it adds action skill damage to our gun, similar to Harlow's green skill tree. And there's the Ludopath. Now this one's really cool because whenever we roll our bone dice, we gain Ludopath stacks equal to the roll, which gives 3% fire rate and 5% movement speed for each stack with a maximum of 36 stacks. They last for 12 seconds. It also gives you action skill cooldown rates so you can summon in the bone totems quicker, but it's the skill rolls in this one as well that are incredible. Ante up, we get increased gun damage and skill damage. The more gun magazine, the more fortune stacks we have, the greater the bonus. This will scale actually pretty insane. I'm not sure if it's broken or not, but if you even have a single, like a hot slugger or an underbarrel, it'll trigger off of that and count as though you got like the maximum boost. It's actually kind of insane. So you can roll with this for a very powerful setup because, for example, if we're throwing out our dice here, we are going to take that 10, we're going to take that 5, we're going to take all these rolls, and we got all that extra movement speed now. So we're shooting really quickly, we're moving around really quickly. It's actually kind of insane. But yeah, getting an increased fire rate and increased movement speed from the dice is pretty silly. It's not going to be the strongest. The gamer still ends up giving you insane boosts to your damage, and some of the others, like the hot shot, also give you boosts to your critical damage, which is really, whoa, our life steal saved us there. But yeah, this is a pretty powerful setup if you want to get your movement speed going pretty insane, because it's going to add, like that's 10, that's 30% extra fire rate and movement speed got boosted quite a bit too. And some of Cash's purples are decent, but honestly, with things like the Gamer, the Whale, and the Hotshot out there, it's probably best to be using some of these for those big boosts to your critical hit damage, sniper rifle damage. Like these are actually really good. I didn't even realize this, but I had a crazy good roll that I was just ignoring here. The skill rolls on this gamer are actually kind of insane. I've been using a different one. This also came with 40% critical hit damage. That's not all, folks. You also, if you get 5 points into Tender Hearts, 40% more critical hit damage, and then 15% more during Windfall. On top of that, I also was able to get the rolls into the Trick Shot to give ourselves that extra chance of getting War Wagon activated, and it also gave us that 1 point into Cursed Bones. So I think that's the best roll. I didn't even realize that was sneaking in my inventory. I was just looking at another one that I had favorited. That is pretty nuts. So I'll talk about gear before we get into the builds, because the only thing that's really going to change maximally is the class mod that we're using. Shields like Watch for Dinner are still going to be our best. I'm hoping that our next DLC pack gives us a better shield to use, because this is just best in slot. If you're mobbing, Fireworks works great, and you can also throw in like the Super Soldier there as well to regenerate ammo. Enhancements, my favorites are like the Jacob's Bounce Pass, the one that gives you that additional ricochet here, like this one here, the Quintain. I'm also a big fan of the Stud Finder. I like the Torg weapons in this game. There's a lot of really powerful ones, especially recently with like the Scoot and Shoot. This one is insane with this, especially with this roll. What's great about this, it also works with the Shalashaska. Ordnance, this is your personal preference, but he gets heavy ordnance infinitely, and the Heimdall is the best choice for that. So this is new to the DLC. You get it from the final boss of the DLC, but he can use anything, even the old favorites like Disc Jockey and even the new Icar, which does 2 types of damage. Critical hit, knife can work, but I do think it's best for him to use something like the Heimdall, which is just insane. Rep Kit, I really like the movement speed, lifesteal, anything you can get on triple bypass just so that we can get our action skill back quicker is great. There are the new Geigeroid and Blood Moon, but they just kind of suck. And even something like the triple bypass with increased fire rate is kind of preferable. I like the movement speed. And I have one here that's also the Kill Spring. This one's good too. Now for best weapons, again, Scoot and Shoot is a new one and it's insane. I haven't been able to find the Jacobs and Ripper part 1, but this can come with a few different elemental rolls. Basically, you keep shooting, it's going to, since we have infinite ammo, it keeps shooting multiple guns at a time and it gets insanely high damage. We also have the Crazed Earl, which is the new one from, you can guess who. You can easily get this with the, if you get the drop, you're likely going to get with Ripper and Jacobs. The damage from this is insane. And you go in and melee target, it's going to knock the shards off them and deal a bunch of damage and find another target. I'm a big fan of the Crow Source. This is the gun you've seen me using thus far. I hate order weapons, but this one's really good. It has a very fast charge rate for its beam attack, and it shoots out random projectiles. It's a really fun, useful weapon. The new Fear Stalker is also great, especially if you can get the high damage with the Ripper and Jacobs. I was farming the Nightmare Rifts for a while. This is a really fun, powerful weapon. I've been farming, trying to find a better Scoot and Shoot and Crazed Earl. So I got a lot of Crazed Earls. There's a very wide damage range. Some of them have like 17k damage. This one has 27k damage. Another one I want to recommend is the Golden God, because you can use this one and you can get infinite critical hits if you use the Quicksilver enhancement. There's also the new Falker weapon here, which is really fun, and you can get Jacobs and Ripper on it as well. I also like the new, I guess not so new, but the Roulette. If you shoot this gun and reload, it gets to number 7. Continually keep shooting it with your infinite ammo and you'll just burn through every single enemy in the game. This gun feels like it was made for cash, especially with the Ripper and Jacobs parts on it. And we also have things like the new Flash Cyclone, which are quite powerful. And even like the Mantra, I don't really have it right now. Dark Beast is another good one if you got the shotgun ammo loader, because it can just activate a lot of your abilities quickly. If you can find a Dullahan, I don't have a level 60 version yet, this is my level 51. The level 60 is like double that amount of damage. The Underbarrel works with some of the abilities I talked about, which scale up as you have different amounts of ammunition, so this can be insane. And the Hot Slugger works really well in that regard too. I like the Wombo Combo too. And even the laser cutters can be pretty fun, but they're not really that optimal. My favorites would be Scoot and Shoot, Shalashaska, Crazed Earl, the Roulette, the Crow Sourced, and the Dark Beast. Now for a build overview. I'm going to start off with the green, then we'll do red, and we'll end off with blue, the fun one. I actually really like the green one quite a bit. Basically with this, you get a charge skill, you have 3 shots, you can throw out these bone dice. They're going to go around dealing damage. Whenever we roll 2 of the same number, we get a badass version of the bone totem, which will give us increased stats. Now, if you know how dice work, there are certain numbers that just roll a lot more commonly than others. So that's something to keep in mind, because whenever you roll certain numbers, it gives you different benefits. And whenever you're in Windfall, die rolls will always result in a unique roll. So we have a few different abilities at start, and then all of our augments add in different ones. So the first one we get is the Tainted Draining Totem. So if you get something that's not a unique roll, it'll spawn a tainted draining totem that'll give kinetic lifesteal, which gives you some health back. Whenever you roll 4s, we'll spawn a mortar that lobs projectiles that does fire grenade damage. And whenever we roll 10s, we get an angry totem that'll give us increased gun damage over time. And this is actually pretty crazy because it does scale with some of our other abilities here quite well. Now, once we get to our augments, we have a few different ones. I'll go over all the augments here. So the Heavenly Sevens, when we roll 2 7s, we get a Protector, which gives us and our allies overshield. And this will also give us increased fire rate and reload speed depending on our shield numbers. The 5 is alive. When we roll 2 5s, we spawn a lightning totem that'll call down lightning bolts, chain lightnings around, and whenever it inflicts a status effect, the lightning bolts will spawn faster. The damage from this is not very high. I just want to point that out, but it is cool to see. There's also 3's Company, which will give us increased windfall duration for our amount of totems. And when we roll 3s, we get an arcane totem that increases the action skill damage of all nearby allies. Whenever this one does spawn, it will give you an immediate Cleromancy charge back, so you basically get it for free. It also gives you your action skill damage increased as well by 50%, which is nuts. The thing is, rolling a 3 is very hard, so you don't see this one as often as you would see something like the Mighty 9, which is a reference. There's actually a lot of D&D references here. I also want to quickly just mention that the green skill tree has a lot of different spells that are named after D&D spells, which is kind of cool. Like you got Vampiric Touch, you got Bone Shards, you got basically Chromatic Orb, Color Spray, you got Acid Spray, Piercing Bolt. Like a lot of these are D&D themed. Also on the topic, I am working on a Baldur's Gate 3 Gambit mod, so if you like cards and you play Baldur's Gate 3, you can check that out. That's aside the fact. The Mighty 9, D&D reference again, will give you basically, if you were to go down and you have a bone totem out, you get a free revive. This is pretty great, and it also gives a free Cleromancy charge. Kind of cool. Whenever we roll 9s on a tough totem, this causes our guns and ordnance to get bonus incendiary melee damage for every enemy killed. Whenever Cash kills an enemy, restore the duration to all other active totems. This is really cool because this is going to give our guns melee damage. There's a few things that'll actually scale off melee damage, especially the specialization. So if you, this allows you to double dip in your damage because it's going to take some of the increases from our gun damage if you use that specialization. It becomes pretty nuts. There's also the Dirty Dozen. Cash's minimum fortune count stack is based on how many active totems that we have. It's okay. And the Chaos Tome. Roll 12s to gain a Chaos Tome that draws and throws cards from Cash's deck. Whenever Cash rolls his dice, the next card can be any card. This is an interesting collab with the blue skill tree. I think this is a really fun one. Dirty Dozen just makes a lot of sense. The easy 6s, these are easier roll to get, these 6 and 7s. Whenever an enemy with a tainted bone totem attached to it, that bone totem splits into 2 mini bone totems, and Cash may only have a single set of mini bone totems at a time. And whenever you roll those 6s, it spawns a tainted flame totem that follows the enemy around and will explode, dealing the ordnance damage to nearby enemies. And the higher our fire rate, the more often it'll explode, doing 8,000 damage. Now again, this doesn't have very, very high damage, but it will scale off any increases to your ordnance damage, which is nice. There's also the 8 of Hell. So whenever we freeze an enemy, all of our totem duration freezes for a brief duration. Roll 8s to get a tainted frozen totem that deals cryo melee damage, constantly freezing in an area, and empowers all the frozen totems for a duration, granting them bonus damage based on our max shield capacity. That is pretty nuts. So it's a bonus damage up to 45%, and it is actually kind of insane what you can get from this. Now, this is great if you're using one of the new pearlescent weapons, which I really like, the Crow Source. If you have a cryo override, and same thing with the Crazed Earl, that is going to work really well on this setup. So yeah, that can be a fun one. And there's also the Commotions 11. So the Cash's totems deal bonus damage of his gun's current element. This will also, when we roll an 11, give us an effigy totem that spawns additional Eldritch Bullets that will do kinetic gun damage. Anytime a status effect is applied to an enemy, the effigy totem fires an additional wave of Eldritch Bullets for a brief duration. Bonus damage is 15% of the current gun's element. This is another one that's like not crazy high damage, but it is pretty fun. And the totems getting the bonus damage is just going to be always applied. So that's where this one truly shines. Now for builds, I guess for this setup, I really like to go with this here, giving ourselves increased skill damage, action skill cooldown rate. This will give us bonus fire damage, the additional augment here. And then we come down here, I got this from the class mod, giving us the jinxed on the target. Can't Stop Winning is one of the most essential green skill tree perks. Now, if you're adding in the green skill tree to another one, the reason that we'd be doing this is just for Can't Stop Winning, just because that ability to go into our Windfall is so valuable. So that can be really nice. I also like to go over here and take Tormented, which gives us increased critical hit damage against jinxed enemies, 20%, and then an additional 30 against those jinxed ones. So this scales up our damage quite a bit. This will also give us increased action skill cooldown rate for every jinxed enemy. This will also give us automatic critical hits and our bone totems as well against jinxed enemies, which is pretty insane. And crazy when we consider the fact that you can activate this pretty consistently because you have multiple charges of it. So yeah, infinite crit's really easy. This will also give us bone shards, which are nice too. And with the green skill tree, I like to add in, I'm just going to pause it here so you guys can copy this down if you want to use it. Will have in the comments linked builds for each of the 3 skill trees, so you can check that out if you want something a little bit more in depth. But this will give us a lot of extra gun damage, and even going with gloam to glow is pretty nice here. A portion of all damage dealt will give us overshield, and then whenever we lose fortune stacks, we get bonus damage based on our overshield. So yeah, this is a pretty powerful green skill tree. You can go, like I've done builds where I've tried out both these here, but just adding in the red ends up adding more to the green. So what this looks like, we want to get our Windfall up. We got it. Then we're going to throw down our dice there. We got a 4 there, which is great. We got the badass. We rolled 2 2s. And then we get infinite critical hits now. So that's the thing, is we are just going to be doing crits for 8 whole seconds. So yeah, you can just fire away. You got infinite crits. It's insane. And then whenever you run out of your infinite crits, you just throw out another bone dice. You got your crits again for a long time. And if you want to do heavy ordnance, what you would do is just toss out all your dice all at once. So we got our dice going out, cool. And then we're going to pull up the heavy ordnance here and just fire away. So we're going to have our infinite ordnance. You can watch down the right-hand side of the screen with the Heimdall. This is going to get our Heimdall. This gives us our ordnance back whenever they shoot at the target there. The damage from this is insane. And then our totems are going around. We basically have totems and these flying little doll heads here just doing an insane amount of damage to the target. And we don't even have to really confront them. We can shoot those off wherever we want. And one last showcase here. This is the scoot and shoot. You can see we're shooting out a bunch of different targets here, or a bunch of extra bullets. And yeah, we don't have kinetic damage on this version. So we'll try this again with a kinetic one, just because this is how we get the infinite ammo here, so that we can use this gun to its full potential. You can see there, we just continually keep shooting out extra projectiles. So yeah, you do need to have kinetic damage for that additional, the ability to get your infinite ammo. One thing that you can do when I get to the red skill tree is talk about nothing beats lead, which converts our damage into kinetic damage. So you can have any gun do that. So yeah, tossing our dice here, giving us that infinite critical hits, and then shooting off the scoot and shoot here. We have the watch for dinner, so we still have that shock damage to tear through any type of shields. And then once we enter our Windfall here, you can see the damage this gets is pretty insane. So yeah, that is a green skill tree build that is quite powerful. We do mix in the red. I'm going to show you a full red build here, or actually, you get the most out of their builds by adding something else in. The red skill tree is nice, but it struggles with its ability to go into Windfall unless we throw in the green skill tree. But with the red skill tree, we have some really nice ones. Increase critical hit damage, increase action skill duration with diminishing turns. I think Unleash is really good, giving us increased fire rate, which is just a straight boost to our overall damage. Early game it has a shootist, giving you more gun damage, which could be nice, but I do think Stand and Bleed's even better, getting a critical hits chance with action skills and guns. I guess I should talk about the class ability here, Crossfire. This is surprisingly very good, because when we had Windfall, and with the skills I'll show you guys, the damage is insane. So this brings out dual revolvers, he just shoots automatically. I don't love playing this way, like it is automatic, but the damage is insane. So he does kinetic damage. You can use the F key to enter this at any time and refund a portion of it, but you're going to use your dual revolvers here, and you press and hold the left mouse button to go into burst fire, which will increase fire rate, and it makes it go down, the action skills burn through quickly. You can also melee targets, and there are some augments that will impact this quite a bit. But yeah, basically with this, you get you basically just want to run in and jump around, avoid damage, and you're going to automatically shoot at targets. I'll go over augments here as well. This will give us an attempt to go into Windfall and spend all fortune stacks and gain bonus fire damage for the remainder of the action skill duration. This gives us 20% of damage dealt per stack. So you can attempt to go into Windfall and then get a nice boost to your fire damage. There's also the Midnight Showdown, which gives us increased movement speed when our skill is active, and this is pretty crazy. This also gives you an override for your dash, which gives you Shadow Step, which increases fire rate and causes all shots to ricochet for a duration. And while Windfall is active, ricochets will split into 2 bullets. So that can be pretty nice. There's also things like the Sawed Off, which will give you dual shotguns, which is really cool. It's high damage. I like those odds. Whenever we kill an enemy during Crossfire, we have a chance to spawn a bone dice that'll spawn a random Cleromancy bone dice, and this skill will have a cooldown of only 2 of these can be active at a time. So it's 25% per kill. This is pretty good odds. I like those odds. Desperado, when Windfall is active, we'll get a free grenade, and whenever we kill an enemy with our action skill, we get increased skill duration and ordnance damage, and this will restore. This goes down over time, it's diminishing returns, and this will also let us press F and shoot off rockets for a duration that do heavy ordnance splash damage. Haven't seen heavy gun ordnance before, but yeah, that I guess means it's taking gun damage and the ordnance damage increases. Reckoning here will increase the damage when Windfall is active, and you can press G to throw fire rockets, which is kind of cool, which is decent. The thing we want is this though, because Reckoning makes it so that we get 50% extra crossfire damage. So this gets boosted up quite a bit when we're in Windfall. Windfall also boosts that damage up quite a bit too. So this makes it kind of powerful. We also got Show Your Marrow, which gives us increased fire rate, and our dual revolvers have a chance to do those bone totems similar to the trick shot there, which can give us our ammunition back. This will also give us a reload override, which makes it so you do a bone shard that deals and gives increased health. You can use your health to increase your fire rate. This is very similar to the trick shot, so I wouldn't recommend using it if you took 1 point in there or have a class mod with it. There's also Slick Thunder. After sliding when using Crossfire, we gain damage reduction and movement speed for duration, and we have a chance to get an Arc Lightning. This isn't really that good, but those are all the augments. I'll go over the best choices here. So we're also going to go through. I like to take this here for the Hot Hand, extra fire damage. Even Ride to Ruin can give you your action skill back quickly. Now, depending if you're going to use heavy ordnance or just guns, this will give you increased kinetic damage. This gives you bonus kinetic damage with ordnance and gear. So that's good if you want to just use the Heimdall. If you're using guns, Lawless. We're then going to take War Wagon, which deals kinetic damage. Whenever we deal kinetic damage, we get a chance to get our ammunition back, which is crazy. Pale Rider is also cool because this gives us bonus kinetic damage on our Crossfire skill, which is great. And then we get Nothing Beats Lead. A portion of our elemental damage gets converted in kinetic damage, and then that gets increased. So we take 45% of any elemental damage, we turn into kinetic, and then we boost to 75%. It's pretty insane. Now, we also can, at this point, add in the green skill tree here, which we can give our action skill cooldown rate here. This will give us additional health, but it's more so for the green skill tree. And this won't give us skill damage. Like, there's nothing like fantastic here. You could go with Luck Be a Robot to give yourself the increased action skill cooldown rate. It's probably the best choice here. Oh Fortuna will give you increased Windfall chance and elemental effect damage, but we're going to get it into Windfall, no problem. We don't need to take that. We can take the Red Moon Rising, however, which will give us bonus fire damage when we're in our Windfall. That's great because we can also scale that up. Devil's Tines give us an extra enhancement or an augment. It's great. And we can take Ride and High to give ourselves increased Windfall duration or Charm Bracelet there. After this, we're going to take 1 point and Can't Stop Winning. This is great because then now we get ourselves that critical hit to go into Windfall. You can also put a point and Turn of Fate here, giving yourselves Overshield Steel, which is just insane to throw on a build like this, when it can also get from Gloam to Glow. So we can add in Unshaken, which will give us 5% bonus or 5% extra damage for every fortune stack that we lose for 10 seconds. That's 50% extra when we lose max stacks. And then take from Gloam to Glow, which is interesting because all damage that we get taken is getting converted into Overshield. Whenever we lose a fortune stack, shots from our gun will deal bonus damage equal to our Overshield. This becomes pretty crazy with the Watch for Dinner as well. This also lets us take the Bleed the Bad. Whenever we activate Crossfire's Burst Fire, we get a chance to go into Windfall. And whenever we attempt to enter Windfall and fail, we reset our action skill duration and it drains faster. This is actually pretty silly with this build because we can just continually keep activating it. Now, for the augments that I'd like to have on this, Sawed Off is crazy because the shotgun damage is so high. I like those odds. Whenever we kill an enemy, we get the Bone Dice. I like to throw in Reckoning for that increased damage when Windfall is active. And for the final augment, you can throw a Midnight Showdown for that extra shadow step and also give us the increased movement speed. This gives us bonus fire damage per stack. There's also the Show Your Marrow to give yourselves those bone shards that teleport around, and you get a 12% increased fire rate. I like those odds. I'm going to put that one on. Getting 2 capstones, these 3, is pretty solid. Then we can put our final points into Pale Rider there, and then we can go ahead and take that 1 point of Turn of Fate. And if you didn't have the Accursed Bones, you'd want to take Accursed Bones because Jinxing is so good, especially when you combine it with the red skill tree. And again, you can use that Hot Shot to give your spinning fire attack, and it also gives you that increased critical hit damage, which is so good when we consider it can also give rolls into the Bloodstained Moon there. And what we want to do is basically go into Windfall first and then activate our action skill here. You can see it shoot. Oh my god, the damage from this is absurdly high. I'm not even using the burst fire. Here's that fire spin attack. It's not really good against this target because he's resisting it obviously, but in Windfall, the damage that we deal is pretty crazy on this. And that's with the Hot Shot. That isn't even the cracked gamer. That's using the Hot Shot. And again here, we want to get into Windfall, so boom. Wow, that shot basically took him out. And you can see here, yeah, the damage from this is insane. Really crazy. You can also press your right trigger to be able to aim down with sights on this. So yeah, I have no fortune stacks right now. And yeah, with this, we got to get ourselves a fortune stack. So basically, if you get 1 fortune stack there, we can then shoot away and then enter. We need to have at least 1 to be able to do this. Pressing the left mouse button shoots faster. We killed him so fast. So yeah, the flow is if you don't have fortune stacks, shoot at a target, take out a trash mob, and then go into your overdrive, or go into your Windfall here, and you can see there, when we get the burst fire on, the damage from this is pretty crazy. That is without us even having to aim. I think the Hot Shot is insanely good, so definitely worth checking out. So yeah, in total, Crossfire is honestly really, really good. And probably the best to mix with the other skill trees just because that infinite ammo is so good. And again, green skill tree is great to add in for that extra chance to go into our action or go into Windfall. Now for the blue skill tree. This one's interesting because it has a lot of ordnance focused abilities, so you can give yourself some pretty big benefits like critical hit chance with your ordnances, you increase ordnance damage, which gets doubled, double ordnance damage potential. Crazy because you can actually double the amount of ordnance you're doing. But even so, he has boosts to shield capacity. Giving yourself plus 40% shield capacity is kind of nice, kind of tanky. And even the fast hands, reload speed just translates into damage dealt. This also gives an increased windfall chance per fortune stack, which is nice because if you don't take the green skill tree, you do struggle to get into it. And these cards get an insane boost to damage when we're in windfall. So I guess just to explain the sleight of hand. So basically you draw cards, you hold them in your hands, you can see what color you got. It's going to be random. This is where it gets tricky. So you can kind of strategize, like there's a target that has a certain health bar that's going to be weak against a card, you can throw it at them. Each card will have a random effect, behaves differently whenever it's drawn. Whenever Windfall is active, they get greatly increased effects. I think it's way more than double from what it looks like. And we'll also have additional skill duration depending on additional charges. And you start off with 2 cards, Magic Missile and Fireball. As mentioned, these are all D&D spell names, which I think is kind of funny. Fireball does a Fire Nova and creates a Rupture, which will do Fire Mortars. The damage is okay, it does 22,000 per Fireball. Magic Missile will home in on targets and deal kinetic damage, and Windfall causes the card to double the amount, and it splits off into. So those are okay. Now, for the rest of the cards, Thunder to Table is also not good. This one basically is just a piercing zigzag bolt. But whenever Cash deals an enemy with an action skill, you get increased action skill cooldown rate. All of these come with a bonus and also a new card that gets added to your deck. The Cowboy here, whenever we trigger our Windfall, while our action skill is cooling down, it'll automatically recharge it. This is pretty crazy because you can then get your action skill back immediately. This will also add in an Acid Spray card that fans out in front of us and explodes. And when we're in Windfall, the damage from that is insane. And also when we're in Windfall, we throw additional Acid Spray cards, and each card has a Corrosive Nova and Impact. So yeah, when you're in Overdrive, or when you're in your Windfall, the damage from that is insane. The damage doesn't really go that crazy when this, it just shocks additional enemies. This one's really good. It's probably the better one at the start. We also have the Big Pull. The Sleight of Hand gets additional charges, so +2. And you also have a Black Hole that pulls enemies in, dealing radiation damage. And then it creates a Singularity if you're in Windfall. Good for mobbing, but generally sucks. There's also the Cooler, which doubles all Windfall bonuses, which gets insane because we do have some ways to really scale those up, like Payout there, increasing our bonuses. But with this one as well, we add freezing cards that'll automatically freeze enemies on impact and do cryo melee damage. The problem is bosses can't be frozen this way. Windfall, whenever freezing shards impact anything, they shatter into mini shards that home in on enemies and have a chance to freeze on hit. It's okay. These are the better ones. Bet on Red. When Sleight of Hand is active, Cash gains damage reduction. The more fortune stacks, the more the bonus. And this can be upwards of 30%. So it's not crazy, but it's enough. This also throws a Vampiric Touch card into the mix, which is really good. This does kinetic life steal damage and has a high critical hit chance and deals ordnance damage. This also is not, like, it sounds like Vampiric Touch. It's actually a long-range spell. Windfall that will also automatically kill all non-badass enemies and deals increased damage otherwise. And the critical hit chance is 75%. You also get 50% of the life steal back, and the Vampiric Touch badass damage is 50k. This hits really hard, especially if you're in Windfall. Previously, this didn't work properly, but now it does. It'll kill instant mobs just blasting with it. It's kind of crazy. With the Dead Man's Hand, though, this gives us increased chance to enter Windfall, 10%, kind of crazy. This also adds a Bone Shard card to our deck that deals kinetic damage. Whenever it hits an enemy, it creates Bone Shards that deal kinetic damage and ricochet to enemies. Enemies dealt this way get increased damage by 30%, similar to the other Bone Shard abilities in the skill tree. This just gives you that boost to the damage. The Sweeten the Pot, though, gives us 2 extra additional charges, and this one's a crazy one in my opinion, because this will give us gun damage boosts, which can actually apply and activate our hot streak. So with this, whenever we throw the card, it'll automatically make our gun deal a bonus elemental damage with that card's damage type for a duration. So for 16 seconds, we get a color spray bonus down 42% of the damage dealt. And what's insane about that is the fact that it's going to trigger our critical hits on this here. So that is really nice. There's also the Furious Fingers. Whenever Crash activates his Windfall, he gains a Sleight of Hand charge. This is probably the craziest augment in this deck because with the No Limit, you can get 20 extra ones here. And this will give us additional cards equal to that. It becomes nuts. It also adds a Ball of Lightning and Fire, which allows you to basically bounce between them. It functions like Chromatic Orb, even though it's not called that. And whenever the card bounces in Windfall, it leaves behind an Elemental Hazard that does 8,000 damage. It's pretty cool, but I'll show you the build here. There's actually a lot of builds because you can mix with the red skill tree and go infinite ammo, or we can go with the green skill tree and try to get our go into Windfall. I like the Windfall a little bit more. Now with the blue skill tree, it is really nice, as mentioned again, to throw in Can't Stop Winning, because when we're in Windfall, our damage is just so much higher. You can alternatively also go into the red skill tree and add in War Wagon if you want to have infinite ammo. That's the beauty of it. So there's a few ways. The middle and the right skill tree are the better options here. It's kind of funny. It feels like in Borderlands, the left skill tree ends up being the weaker one. These are kind of the strong options. But getting the Tender Hearts with the boosted damage here, this can be crazy for that 80% additional critical hit damage. And this scales up really crazy because the bet on red here has insane damage. So the badass damage is 50k. And if you crit on that, and it can like almost one-shot a lot of targets. This is also great because with Furious Fingers here, we can get a ton of charges, and paired with the no limit, that gives us 20 fortune stacks, which is pretty crazy. And then what's crazier is that we're counted as having 20 stacks whenever we're in our overdrive. If I had more points, anti-up would be good. This is going to scale insane whenever the next level cap comes, because all of this just goes even further. So essentially we want to get into we can go into our Windfall there. So it counts as though we have like 20 stacks here. And we want to get whenever you have the rainbow card here, you can then, with the rainbow card, when we go out of our overdrive, we get those critical hits off. And then the damage from this is pretty silly. As you can see there, we're blasting away. So the cards can be a means to power up your damage there, because all that bonus damage is scaling up pretty insane. But the cards themselves can do some pretty crazy damage when we're in our Windfall here. You can get a lot of them too, because whenever we go into Windfall, it counts as though we have 20 cards, or 20 stacks. So yeah, the cards can do some pretty silly stuff, but basically we want to, in this particular build that I did set up here, we want to use that rainbow card you see I just had in the right-hand side there. You can then exit it once you get that card, because then whenever we go to shoot at it, you see there the damage becomes actually insane. Now, I did do a build that was more so focused on the card damage, but I just found that the cards to boost up the gun damage ended up being pretty crazy because the cards are not reliable. That's their big problem, is that they oftentimes you're in the mercy of what you get, with certain ones being more desirable. And then in this particular setup, we got the sweeten the pot, which just ends up being so good with this particular setup. But what's fun about this is that it impacts our gun damage, and we can use the cards together. So Sleight of Hand, Cleromancy, and Crossfire are all incredible. Cash has a wide variety of very powerful builds, and I'm curious to see how the new level cap increase impacts him. But honestly, he does pretty much what all the other Vault Hunters do, but just as good, or if not better, with crazy damage. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below, and let me know what type of Borderlands 4 content you guys would like to see next.